Some of you might not know this, but HR was actually my second career choice. I first started out in the legal field and thought that's where I would be going my entire life. And at the time when I started working in HR, I had no idea how lucky I was to have that legal background until I got further into my career. In this video, I'm going to get a little bit personal on my journey with employment law, and I'm going to share some tips with you that I learned over the years that I hope can help you with your small business. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button right below this video and hit the little bell right beside it so that you can be notified on every time I post a new HR video. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Teresa and I'm known in the social media world as the Wonderful Wizard of HR. And yes, I chose that name. And I help small businesses with gaining confidence and knowledge in the HR space. So like I mentioned, this is my second career, and I started HR about 23 years ago. And for the past 9 years, I have been helping small businesses navigate through human resources. For me as an HR professional, and for you as a business owner or manager or administrator, knowing the different aspects of the law is very important. And in all my research, when talking to small businesses, one of their biggest fears is being sued by a current or former employee. So as a junior HR professional, I really didn't understand the importance of employment law. In fact, I didn't even know that how much it existed. When I went to college, law for employment was just not a module that we took. And when I worked in the law office, I mostly concentrated on family law. So employment law was completely foreign to me. Of course, I understood the difference between case law and common law because I learned that and I experienced it in my legal profession, but I didn't understand what it looked like when it came to employment law. And I had never seen an employment law case. So in my early days as an HR professional, Google really wasn't a thing. I think Google was founded in 1998, and that's when I started my HR profession. So most people didn't even know about Google, including myself. So how I got around learning about the different laws and legislation was by calling the different employment agencies, such as employment standards agencies, Human Rights Commission, or whichever privacy agency in whichever province, as well as looking to any kind of legal publisher that I could find that focused on employment law. And believe it or not, when I went to university for HR, employment law was not a prerequisite for me to take. So I didn't take it. Have you also experienced having to learn employment law on your own? If you have, let me know in the comments exactly what you have done to learn employment law. I have a feeling it might be a little bit different than how it was for me 23 years ago. I'd like to share a few tips that I learned along the way when it comes to employment law. These tips were both through research that I did and also, unfortunately and shamefully, through trial and error. Firstly, and I already mentioned these earlier in this video, know the agencies that are responsible for the laws in your province or territory. For instance, employment standards agencies, human rights commissions or human rights acts, and your privacy commissions. Those three are the most important in human resources, and you want to know how you can contact them and what their websites are. I would bookmark their websites because they usually have a lot of great information and it's usually in layperson's terms so that you can understand the laws rather than having to read the legislation yourself and understand what exactly it means or what it is saying. Another tip that I can give you that I think some employers miss the mark on this, that following minimum legislation is not always the way to go. It may seem more cost efficient, but you could be spending more money on trying to find and keep the right employees because you've decided to only give them the bare minimum. Take a look at what the industry standard is. Is the industry paying more than minimum standard? Is the industry offering more than what is legislated? If it is, you want to try to compete with that to the best of your ability. Just a quick tip on this. For every hour that you have a vacant position, it is costing you 1.5 times the salary or the wage of that position for every hour that it stays unfilled. So remember that when you're deciding to only follow minimum legislation or not treating your employees very well, which I'm sure nobody wants to do. So, and I know that's not you. Tip number 3, rushing through an offer of employment or a change in position within your organization can have serious consequences. Do not rush this process. Give the employee time to consider the role. Give them time to read the new contract. Give them time to sign it, and never let them sign it on the same day. And always assess your risk factor. If you can mitigate your risk as much as possible, you are going to be in a better position than taking on all the risk. Let me give you an example of this. If you were to let an employee go and you decided that you were going to pay them the minimum employment standard, and let's say that minimum standard was 2 weeks. So that employee possibly maybe had been there 3 years and the minimum standard was 2 weeks. Now, this is all just hypothetical. If you were to just pay that minimum standard, you could be at risk for them to come back and sue you for severance pay. So what you want to do is you want to assess that risk and decide if you're willing to take that gamble of that employee coming back to you or not. Or you could lessen that risk, mitigate that risk by first having an employment agreement that actually has termination terms in the agreement and that you will only pay so much when it comes to termination. And secondly, you could pay a small extra severance pay that could lower that risk, and you could get them to sign a release to never come and sue you. So always assess your risk. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind here is that the information that I'm giving you today is based on my personal experience. Going and talking to a lawyer is something I will always recommend when it comes down to you making a decision on exactly what you need to do with an employee from a legal perspective. Trying to do it on your own or only talking to an HR professional about it is going to possibly cause you some grief in the future. There are lawyers around for a reason, and you want to make sure that you are seeking legal advice for complicated situations. I'm really enjoying having this conversation with you. Employment law is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Now, I am not going to fool myself by thinking that I am a lawyer, because I absolutely am not. I have some training in law, I have experience in law, but that is the limit. I'm not a barrister and solicitor. Don't pretend to be. I use my own legal resources when I need to. I have great lawyers that I talk to and that I refer my clients to when needed. If you're ever in that situation, you need to do the same. In my program, the Complete HR Blueprint, in the 4th module of the course portion of the program, I actually touch on employment law just a little bit more. We dig a little bit deeper into legislation and what the difference is between case law and common law is, and what you need to know as an employer. And also, I provide some great resources that you can find online for employment legislation. If you're interested in learning more about that program, click on the link in the description below this video to book a call with me to see if maybe you qualify to become a member of that program. And please remember to hit that like button right below this video and subscribe so that you can be notified for future videos on human resources for small business. Are you interested in learning a little bit more about HR trends? Then click on these 2 videos, The Great Resignation and Hybrid Working, to learn more about the latest trends. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.